welcome back. I know I promised Mr. Bamidele Abiodun Bamidele that we're coming back to him, but I understand that actually Georgina, the Popo of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, also has to leave for that aforementioned meeting. So we're going to give you the chance to have the last word before you leave us, Georgina. And what will that be?
I want to say, on behalf of myself, my party, the Young Democratic Party, and my colleagues, want to apologize to Nigerians because the message and the purpose for the Inter-Party Advisory Council is for a free, fair, credible, and transparent elections. And this can only be achieved if we have a majority of voters being involved in the process. So I want to appeal to Nigerians that irrespective of the challenges, we should see this duty of voting as a very serious, it should be a priority to us. It's a serious civic responsibility that we should take with all sense of seriousness. And your vote is your power. It's your power to determine good education for yourself and your children, healthcare, delivery and good governance. So do not let any challenge to hold you back. Please go ahead. Damn the consequences, forget about the challenges, and please be a part of this process come February 23rd. Thank you very much.
That is on that very optimistic note that you come up with, and I know that couldn't have been easy, that we want to thank you, Georgina Dapopo, National Secretary of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, for being with us on this segment of the program. And we wish you good luck at this all-important meeting. We're talking about the meeting now. It looks like this meeting is going to decide on what we're going to hear and what is going to get done eventually in the coming days, especially ahead of next week. So we wish you the best of luck. May the wisdom of Solomon attend you at that meeting. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, Mr. Bamidele, let me come back to you. And you were at the point at which you were itemizing.
Yes.
Please continue. I hope you haven't lost your train of thought.
No.
Please.
I was saying that the cost of this postponement is so enormous. Now, both locally and internationally, at a point I was thinking, we have international observers who have traveled in, maybe with a plan of staying a few days in Nigeria and get back to their nations. What happens? Who bears the cost of either having to go back and return or having to stay in an hotel for the next 1 week? That's another side. Then you come to the cost of lives that will be on transit within this period. So we can go on and on and on. The cost is just too enormous.
And speaking about those international observers, I was listening to one of them the other day, and the gentleman said that the quality of the process determines the quality of the leader that we're going to get in the end, and that if we do not perfect the process, we probably will never have the sort of leaders that we aspire to have. Do you agree? It's
just simple. You know, those days while I was in school, I remember we took some courses in computer science. Even though we were doing computer science, we hardly see computers then. But thank God things are a lot better now. Now, I remember one of the slogans then was, what is it? Something in, something out.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. The process determines the product at the end of the day. So I agree 100%. If the process is such that credible and the level of trust in the process is high, you can almost be rest assured that the end result will also be that. And if the process is such that is vulnerable, that can be tampered with within the value chain, you can also be rest assured that that also determines the quality of what comes out of it. So I agree 100%.
Mr. Edoporo, do you?
Yes, I do.
You agree with that?
Yes, I do.
So in that case, how do we, because now there are some things that are in the middle. In some places, materials have been moved, they have arrived, at least somewhere along the value chain. Both the president and the former vice president alluded to that when they made reference to, well, we hope that the materials that have arrived in places are in safe hands, and nowhere during this process do they then end up in the wrong hands. That's on one hand. There are other people who have also arrived halfway. You referred to observers. There are those youth coppers we keep looking at, who have also arrived.
That's right.
You know, even though where they've arrived is also subject. Now, there are so many of these gaps. in fulfilling this or in filling these gaps,
Yes.
1 week is a lot of time, but it isn't also a lot of time.
Yeah.
How do they go about it, knowing what we know about our country?
I think the starting point will be this 2 p.m. meeting. This meeting should state in clear terms what the challenges that they faced. This meeting should state in clear terms how they intend to deal with those challenges. This meeting should state in clear terms how they intend to secure. As it is now, if confidence was at 10% prior to, confidence is much below zero now, as it were, it's on the negative. So INEC needs to rebuild confidence. And how do you do this? Tell us exactly what has gone wrong in plain terms. Clearly, INEC has not been forthcoming with all the truth. Because if everything was fine until yesterday evening, what could possibly have gone wrong between then and 2:45 that would make them postpone? So it means that they've not been really, forthcoming with the truth. So at 2 p.m., can they please tell us what the truth is? All right? And then tell us what the truth is, tell us what you're doing to fix it, and then tell us how you're going to ensure that the sensitive materials that have gone out will not become a reason. Because now, if I was a politician, I'm waiting. If I don't win these elections, I'm waiting. I mean, I have good reason to say, this is why I lost.
One of the big questions, because we even heard what came out from Edo State.
Yes.
Why is it that you find the materials are somewhere and just cannot leave that place to where they're supposed to be? You know what I mean? So that's one of the things they're going to have to look at.
Yes.
Sometimes you hear they were stuck in transit or they have reached and they're not enough. They have to go back. Why is it like? Is it that, I don't know, do they do a poll? Do you count? Or what is wrong, really?
Somebody's dropping the ball, and there should be consequence. I want to believe that somebody was responsible to move the materials from CBN to the next point of call. Now, the question is, who was supposed to do it? Why didn't he or she do it? And what will be the consequences? What do we then need to do now to ensure that, on Friday, barely how many days away, we can get it done properly? So I think INEC needs to rebuild its confidence level. I don't have so much time.
Now that we're doing this second time around,
yes,
let's talk about security deployment, because Ladi mentioned that we'll talk about that as well. Do we need extra? Just since there will be heightened sense of expectation now. I mean, the expectation was high already, and now we're going to do it again. So people are going to be, we must make sure this thing goes well. Do we need extra security, or is the deployment that we hear enough?
It's difficult to tell from where we are sitting. But I want to believe that those who are responsible and in charge would recognize they should be able to then, redeploy if they need to, bearing in mind that not everywhere we have the same level of, security threat. So I want to believe that those who are in charge of security are in the best position to, respond to this. From where we are seated and little that we know, really will just be speculating. So I think those who are in that line should be in the best position to redeploy resources.
Originally,
yes.
I mean, if we take it as a baseline.
Okay.
Before this happened, and then when you're talking about security, you have materials in some places now, halfway.
That's right.
Which were not envisaged. They were not supposed to be halfway. They were supposed to be on their way.
On their way.
And there was provision made for them to be secure on their way.
On their way.
Now they are somewhere.
Do they return them to INEC?
If you ask
that's
me,
the question.
if you ask me, I would think that's the best thing to do. I mean, INEC should be saying to us, all sensitive materials.
Okay, let me just talk you through what we can see there, live feed. This is the all-important meeting that we've been talking about, where preparations are in full swing, where they are supposed to look at what has happened and why this election has been postponed, possibly look at the areas where they need to work on. We can see there the whole filling up really quickly.
This is, I believe this is the International Conference Center, if I'm absolutely correct, and that will probably be the stand.
And you can see
from
how
many microphones, how many flags of media organizations. There's worldwide attention on this. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu will be on the spot because at this meeting, we're expecting the president to be present. Both in his capacity as a candidate and in his capacity as
international media.
And his capacity as the president.
Yes.
This is the international media, of course. They have a lot of interest because, of course, some of them also have their citizens here.
You can see them with their hands folded.
That's
I'm sure they're just as surprised and puzzled as we are.
They're waiting for this. And as some of our guests have already said, there'll be a lot of questions waiting to be answered. one would expect that at this kind of meeting, all this will be laid bare. The president is expected here. The former vice president, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, is expected here. The other presidential candidates, all their representatives, all 71 others, are also expected to be here.
And these days, they're not happy that they see some sections of the media refer to them as others. So
well, okay,
just refer to them as all parties.
The 71 other presidential candidates, all 73 presidential candidates
yes.
are expected here. Of course, INEC management, which has received most of the bashing since this announcement was made earlier in the day. A lot of other interested parties will be there. We'll keep an eye on that and hope that as it progresses, if we get the facts, we'll be able to immediately bring them to you. But that's that meeting. Now bring us back to the issue of security that I was talking about. Before all this happened, we were talking about the ratio of security to the areas where they should be deployed. And then establishing the balance between too much and too little. Between deterrence and apathy, and so on. Have we got that? Had we gotten that right?
Again, it's tough. Ordinarily in other climes, these things are open. Information is easily available, and so you can actually, you can interrogate the process. But in our situation, what you find is, the police will come and say, we're on top of it, and that's it.
No figures.
Yeah,
no
that's it. We're on top of it.
When they make this
yes, and that's it.
And
they say to you, we're on top of it. Everything is fine. We assure Nigerians of their safety. They should not be afraid. They should go about their duties. But that doesn't mean anything. So one would expect that for example, the sensitive materials as we
sorry,
speak.
Sir, just to let our viewers know that we are aware that at that International Press Center where the briefing is being expected, they're watching the verdict live on the big jumbo screen that you can see there. So it's fantastic to know that they're actually interested in what the media thinks and what the audience, everyone out there thinks about what they're going to be telling us in a couple of hours from now.
Please continue.
So, so because we do not have those facts, of course, not the nitty-gritties, but enough to be able to interrogate what they're doing, we can only hope that those who are responsible for security recognize that, once again, our country is at the precipice. And so they must do what is right for Nigeria. I think that's, for me, that's the key thing. Again, I say this, as policemen, as soldiers, as INEC officials, if they want to do right, they know what to do. All right, so one can only appeal to their conscience to do right for Nigeria.
Mr. Bamdele, let me come to you, because even as we talk about security, there was an issue I raised yesterday, which often causes a bit of a scuffle at the polling unit, polling booth, and that's the ambiguity of the guidelines. So when you have a situation where it is the polling officer that would say to you, no, you can't vote simply because perhaps the card reader cannot either identify your fingerprints or just something goes wrong. In this week that we have, is there anything they can do to come out and say, to Nigerians that they will be more clear on what it will be, so that you don't have a situation where there's that scuffle?
Okay. I will have said this year, and I'm saying that very sincerely, voter education, if it has been that Nigeria is predominantly a highly populated, a nation with high population of educated people, I would have said voter education this time around is a bit better. But when you consider the fact that more of our people, or let me say a lot of our people, are really not educated, because the guidelines is actually available. I was even taking time to look at it very critically. I have the same concern as you have, because not only when the card reader is not reading, cannot read the person's whatever, that the person has to go to the polling officer. There are about 3 situations, and all of them, when they happen, it is the same individual.
The same individual.
That all of them had to go to. What are those 3 that I can remember? When you come in and they put in your PVC, and the details on your PVC is not aligning with the details on the voter's registration register, it is the polling officer that has the final say. When you put in your PVC and they discover that the person holding the PVC is not the same as the person, you know, who is purportedly coming to vote. Is the same person you need to go to. Then the third stage, when your details are correct, but for whatever reason that cannot be explained, there's no match between what is on the system and what is on your card. But when they now go through their own register, they discover that your name is there and your details are correct based on your facial look and other details. It is still the same polling officer. You will still go and meet, and he will do one or two things before you can go ahead to
And
vote.
there's a fourth stage. If your fingerprints cannot be captured or read
All
by that card reader,
exactly.
it is the same person.
It is the same person. So the question now is, what is the time frame? Don't forget that accreditation starts by 8, voting ends by 2. The only set of people that will be allowed to continue voting are people who are already on the queue before 2 p.m. Now, if everybody has to go to the same polling officer, I'm already seeing chaos ahead. Because we can only hope that the card reader will not have major challenges as they have done before. If they do, then we're really in trouble. So I would therefore want to say, maybe there's a need to really look at that value chain again and see whether in addition to the polling officer, there will be one or two other persons who are also accredited by INEC.
Okay, I think it also provides for assistant
They have
polling
two
officers
assistants.
as well.
It's just that their functions are different. The polling officer is the one that has the final say about all these matters we raised. Maybe they want to review that and probably ask one of the other assistants maybe to join in the process.
So that the time of this process, because it's a 7-step process. The way
Exactly,
it was explained.
7-step process.
It's a 7-step process.
That's right.
On average, we'll try to do a rough calculation, all things being equal and everything working seamlessly. You should be through this process. I think it was in
5 minutes.
5 minutes. That's what. But if what you said just now about one person having to make all these decisions, and then you have a number of them, and in some polling units you have 700 people, 800 people, up to 1,000 people, and some of them have these challenges. Definitely, you're not talking of 5 minutes.
True, true. I mean, for the time that we have, I mean, the best that can be done is, like he suggested, the 2 assistants should maybe help to do a bit more.
That's right.
You cannot have any wholesome change to that process in a week. Otherwise, you will end up in a worse place than where you are now. It will be confusion galore. So we just have to make do, hope that the machine works as stated. This becomes a real issue if you have a high rate of failure. If you are dealing with just a few people in that number of 500 or whatever the number is, then you should be fine. And I want to believe that they are working on the assumption that the machine will work properly. So let's just hope that it does that. Otherwise, the time is too short to create any, you know, don't forget these guys have been trained on this, you know, process. So it's too late to want to do any wholesome changes to what they've been told. Yeah.
All right, let's thank Mr. First of all, let me start from the left. Mr. Abiodun Bamidele, who is a human capital development consultant. Thank you so much
Thank
today
you for having me.
for being with us. Mr. Doppel, of course, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
On the other hand, is a development consultant, but he's also a member of the Institute of National Transformation. It's been a pleasure.
Really?
Okay. So it's just two sides of two experts. Thank you so much for being with us. Just a couple of details. We'll be keeping a tab on that meeting that we showed you, that preparations are being made for that all-important meeting in Abuja. You can see it there on one side of your screen. We'll be keeping tabs on it. We'll take the news on the hour as usual, and so please stay on with us.